So, who is Keith Bowers? Well, the answer to that question you're going to get to know as you listen to these episodes. If I had to put it in a nutshell, just as a brief, overview of who I am, I would say I'm a faith-filled husband of 20 years to my wife, father of two girls. Both of them are older now. They're not little kids. I got teenagers that are almost adults. What do I enjoy? I enjoy a bit of everything. I'm a woodworking, baking, meat smoking, gym rat. Big fan of Disney, Star Wars, and all that good stuff. I grew up in LA, moved to GA 7 years ago, and been loving every minute of it. It feels good to get out of California. I feel like we got out of there at the right time. This is pre-pandemic and all of that good stuff. Love Georgia. It's green. We're close to Florida. We go to Destin a lot. We go to Orlando a lot. We like going to the Disney parks. Did I say it's green? Georgia has 4 seasons. California did not. I do miss home, though. I do miss California. There's a lot of things I don't miss, but I do miss California. Mainly the food, if anything. But yeah, I've been here 7 years. I'm still learning new things about Georgia, new places in the greater Atlanta area. I work all over Atlanta and Georgia, so it's pretty cool. I get a better perspective than most people that have been here their whole lives. That's one thing that I've found that's interesting. It's different from California. You see, in California, we drive everywhere. There's public transit, but nobody uses it because, you get the weirdos and stuff on there. But in California, you got to drive everywhere. Everything is an hour and a half away if you want to see something different. It's not like the commercial, come to California. Versus here, I've met people at my gym that have never left Woodstock. I live in the Woodstock, Canton area of Georgia, but they've never left. They've been here since elementary school, high school, all these things. And I'll go to, say, Newnan, Georgia, which is about an hour and a half away from me. They've never been. And there really isn't a whole lot of reason to go to Newnan, Georgia. But if we were in California, there's areas that people will drive 2 hours to go to a famous donut spot. Out here, they just, in my experience, they don't do that. It's very separate, as opposed to California. However, obviously, in Georgia, people are nicer than they are back home, which is cool. People speak. When we first moved here, everyone waves when you come in, when you come out of the housing tract, when you're at Kroger and all that thing. And you realize real quick, yeah, you enjoy that. But you know what that means, California person? Talking to myself. You got to wave back too. And, I got a little... That got a little annoying at first, but then I got used to it, and now I'm one of those people, you have a conversation with an old lady in an aisle at a Kroger or Publix for 5-10 minutes over, her not reaching the cereal and how she's had back pain and I had back surgery and blah, 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 blah. It almost feels like an episode of the Andy Griffith Show, which is my favorite show next to the Twilight Zone. But anyhow, we dig it. We totally dig it. And again, being close to Florida, these are places that when we lived in California, I'd sit there on the couch watching Beachfront Bargain Hunt and all these House Hunters, all these different shows. And they would go to Florida, they go to these beaches, and people in California, they know Miami. I believe a lot of people know Daytona Beach because of MTV Spring Break. I'm kind of dating myself there. Orlando, obviously, because of Disney and Universal. But that's really about it. And, Tampa, because of football or whatever sport you're into. But the smaller places, a lot of California people, you people here on the East Coast, you think we don't know anything about it. So I watch Beachfront Bargain Hunt, and I'd see this weird place called Destin, and I'd write it in my phone. I type it in my phone on my list of places to visit if I ever got the heck out of California. And it's real nice to make that reality now, to just drive or fly and make that reality now. Could we have done this staying in California? Sure. But who wants to pay 500, 600 bucks just to see, a place that, Orlando, yes, but some of these other smaller places is maybe not worth the plane ticket from California. But if you're already over here, have at it. Have at it. One thing I will say I took for granted, and I know a lot of Californians still do, is going to the beach. It currently takes, cry, cry, sob, sob, it currently takes 5 to 7 hours to get to the beach, depending on what beach you're going to, obviously. Driving, I'm talking, not flying. In California, I lived about 45 minutes from the beach. How many times a year did I go to the beach in California? One, and if I was really crazy, two. It's just a different vibe going to the beach in California, though. I mean, you have to kind of like plan for it. There's traffic. There's everybody's going to the same beach, so you got to get there early. Versus, we go to Destin and some other beaches in the Panhandle in Florida, and you can go any time of day. It's night. I'm trying not to talk bad about California, but in Florida, water's clearer. It's clear water. Let's just get that out the way. We're talking white sand, clear water, warm water. The first time I went to the beach, I keep saying Destin because that's where I love. I'm sorry. First time we went to Destin, I said, "Oh my gosh!" Like I just felt like the biggest fool. For all the years I thought I was hanging on to something staying in California, even as a young guy, thinking that, oh, well, yeah, you could go somewhere else, but they don't have Malibu. I tell you right now, it it doesn't compare. But anyhow, we live in Georgia. Even though we go to Florida a lot, we do a lot of stuff in Georgia as well. I mean, the forest, it's everywhere. Where we lived in California, we lived in Santa Clarita, Valencia area. You're probably familiar from the Santa Clarita Diet, the show on Netflix with Drew Barrymore. We used to go to Felton, California, and Big Basin, where the redwoods are, and it would take us about 8 or 9 hours to see a good, strong forest, not Angeles Crest with weirdo. Again, I'll stop. Not Angeles Crest, but like a real forest. But they show you in the commercial, Big Sur and all that cool stuff. Beautiful. But it took forever to get there. Well, I'll tell you what, I live about 40 minutes from a huge waterfall, Amicalola Falls. Lakes. Geez, they filmed Ozarks here, a Netflix show, one of my favorites. We have lakes everywhere. Lake Allatoona. I don't even know all the names, so I'm not going to try that, but I know Allatoona is very close to us. We're talking 15, 20 minutes. I always wanted to live near the forest, even as a little kid. Maybe because it was the opposite of where I grew up. I grew up before this life as I know it now as a family man. I grew up in LA. Literally, I'd walk with my grandmother, my brother, sister, and my cousin. We would walk through USC to go to what was called 32nd Street Market. We'd go to Newberry's and, my grandmother would get us candy, and I don't even know what she was buying, but we would walk through USC. That's how close we lived. So obviously I'm a USC Trojan fan. I didn't go there, but it doesn't matter. Also grew up across the street from the Coliseum as a result. So we would, go to Exposition Park, go to the museums all the time. That was hangs for us during the summer. And, school trips, field trips and things, that's where we went. Grew up there till I was about 15, summer of 93. again, to date myself, we moved to a place called Palmdale, California. Hated it with a passion, which is funny because for my friends and I got a lot of friends. You'll meet them. For my friends and I, it was at that time. Now, Palmdale isn't this way now, but at that time, it was magic. You can't, in California, you can't, well, hell, even here, you can't live the way we lived when we were in Palmdale as teenagers. And there's simple things that we did. We didn't do anything crazy. We weren't crazy. We thought we were crazy, but we were pretty tame. We didn't drink a lick of alcohol or smoke an ounce of whatever the entire time we were in high school. My friends, we didn't, but we had a ball, man. I think the worst thing we did in high school, as boring as it sounds, is jump fences to go to the elementary schools and play dunk ball. Nancy Corey school, elementary school to be exact, in Lancaster. But we had a ball. We enjoyed it. I made so many friends in Palmdale. I hated every minute of the move up there. I was supposed to go to what was it? Audubon. Or no. I was supposed to go to Fairfax High School. Fairfax or Hamilton. The snooty people went to Hamilton. The cool people went to Fairfax. It was on Melrose. But no, moved to Palmdale. And just, I met people. I met friends that became brothers to me. I know it sounds cheesy and mushy and corny, but literally, I still talk to these people to this day. If you've ever been a friend of mine, even if we don't talk every day, I have friends I haven't spoken to in 2 years. No beef or anything, but we haven't talked in years, but we can pick up the phone. Now, we do text, of course, but we can pick up the phone as though we never, just where we left off. I mean, you always say that's how you know you got, good friends. That's how you know they're good people. Again, brothers, sisters, these people are lifelong friends. And then from there, went to college, went to CSUN, decided to do real estate. Met my wife at the real estate office. I'm giving the short version of the story. Well, not that short, but met my wife and decided to have my first daughter, which was super cool, and later my second. And we started this life 20 years ago. And here I am in Georgia in my tricked out basement, which you'll probably hear about from my guests when they come to visit. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So again, just wanted to give a brief overview of who I am. So like, who is this stranger? Who am I listening to? Well, you're listening to Keith Bowers. This podcast has been a long time coming, and this will probably be a story you've heard 50 times by the end of this podcast. As it rolls out, there is a limited amount of episodes I believe I'm going to do. However, this podcast started, the guy doesn't even know it. He's a pastor at my church. His name is Brantley Johnson. About 2 years ago, I'm sitting in church, and this dude and he's probably going to turn blood red whenever he hears this, but this guy was like, at least for me, his messages were so he's still alive, were so striking and so straight to the point. The meat and potatoes, you can take it home and use it that day, which is right up my alley. I said to myself, because I'm a podcast guy, I said, I listen to Christian podcasts. I listen to, some blue humor podcasts. But this guy, I was like, I really wish he had his own podcast so that I could, kind of selfish of me, so I could listen to him, so I could listen to this over and over, so I could listen to this sermon over and over, because that's how if you have realized this, if you haven't, I'm giving you a gift. You listen to one thing, you haven't listened to it, you haven't grasped it. I knew and I do know, you listen to something over and over and over, and pretty soon your brain starts to chew it and you start to spit it out, even when when you least expect it. It's what you go to first. It's like learning karate. You practice, and you're in your first fight, and then without even realizing it, second nature, you throw the karate chop. A dumb analogy, I know, but it's true. Anyhow, so I said, man, it'd be cool if this guy had a podcast. And I said, you know what? After service, I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to say, hey, man, I got a great idea. I'm going to give you work to do. You should start your own podcast. And, I'm leaving church. I'm talking to people, and I forgot. I get in the car, I leave. Well, make a long story short, this went on for a couple of months. I would even talk to him. I mean, he's a friend of mine. He's not like some strange man up on the stage there on the podium. And I would just totally forget, because we'd start talking about the gym and working out and supplements and all that stuff. He's a lot like me in that respect. And time went on, and I kept having the tap on the shoulder to tell him about the podcast. And then I started thinking, now I'm chewing on that idea. And I said, well, maybe it's something that we can do together. I totally, give my time, sow my time into something I believe in. Totally. I do that in my personal life. And again, never came to him with the idea. It just, I found that ideas that you come up with, or you're brainstorming, you're driving, you're daydreaming, you come up with things, the longer you ignore them, the longer they start to fade off, until finally they just become a distant memory, or a forgotten memory. Bing bong. Anyhow, so a year goes by and some change, and literally my wife and I met with Brantley and his wife at the time. And I said, after this, it was Christmas time. And I said, after this, I'm going to tell him about it, because now I'm fired up. Like, New Year's is coming. And didn't do it. Holidays happened, and his wife ended up getting sick. And, you can tell I'm full of excuses by this point as to why I haven't come up to this man in a year and a half and tell him about the podcast. But I think subconsciously I knew without admitting it or realizing it, that it wasn't Brantley that was supposed to do it. I actually prayed about it, and don't mean I heard a voice, but a knowing inside. How about yourself? And I said, to what? I said, I know that didn't come from me, because again, I'm not a weirdo, but I know when I know what I hear from the Lord. And I said, no, that didn't come from me. I said, because, me do a podcast. I'm not important. I'm not, I don't know famous people. No, not me. What do I have to say? And I ignored that even harder than my idea to give it to Brantley to do. And things ran their course with Brantley and his life over the last year here. I won't get into that. He'll be a guest on the show. I'm hoping, praying. I know he will. I hope. And as time went on, literally about 2 months ago, a very good friend of mine, a friend of my brother's, Tony Ward, he has a podcast. The name skips me at the moment. I will drop that. He'll be a guest on the podcast. He said, hey, you got to check out my podcast. And it was like a tap on the shoulder so strong, because, I had already had this idea, and here comes a person that I had no idea was into this. He goes, listen to my podcast. I listened to the episode one night while I was working, and everything changed. I said, oh, if he can do it, I can do what they're doing. They're just talking. I mean, I've listened to podcasts for over 10 years. They're just talking. It's on. It's on. I hit him up. Probably not even a week later, I said, hey man, what did you get equipment wise? How did you get started? And he gave me all the information, and I hit the ground running. And that's how I'm here with you today. I'm not doing this for money, honestly. I'm doing it because I find it fun. I've always been a techie guy. Growing up in LA, I went to the junior high I did go to before moving to Palmdale was a little school, performing arts school, 32nd Street USC Magnet School. In that school, I did video production, photography, all of these things. And that was because you had to do something for performing arts, and I didn't want to play an instrument. I didn't want to do drama. Probably should have, but cool kids didn't do drama. But with doing video production, I always knew I wanted to do something in the arts. I chickened out. Honestly, I chickened out. I didn't go that route. Parents, were kind of old school. You're not going to make any money doing that. They only pick. No one gets picked, but they only pick so many people to do that. Blah 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 blah. And I said, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't want to do the arts, and I just never did. However, for over 30 years, it's been an itch in my side. So when I tell you that this podcast was, 2 years in the making, I'm not going to get all dramatic about it, but it was probably a lot longer than that. This has really been an itch that I've been begging myself to scratch, and I actually had the courage to do it. So please open your ears, listen with an open mind, because it's coming from the heart, just being honest. Again, thank you for listening, and I got guests coming, and please enjoy. God bless.